Volskaya will play out.
Volskaya, a truly safe and secure land. I wish to live in a land where I had a gigantic robot right outside my home, ready to smash evildoers. What a society.
I mean, yeah, I've always been a giant mecha kind of guy, right? That's the shonen that I read growing up. And so this is just perfect for me. Perfect for me. Also, I don't like the heat, so winter time here in Volskaya looks pretty darn good to me.
Also, the reality is to pull aside the curtain from various different bits that I have. The reality is that Lumerico Co. did not pay enough. Dorado is not even remotely in the map pool. Therefore, as a result, I have to change to other methods of selling out, which is may or may not be bought out by the Volskaya industry. So it's fine. I'm fully in support of how they run things here in this area.
By the way, this is all, you know, recorded now, so you can't call for witch hunts. This is actually happening. ZP has admitted it. Collusion from ZP and Volskaya here. Ladies and gentlemen, you heard it on Contenders. As there we go. Mayhem Academy out the gates. Take a look. Hagopun is going to be on the Ana, and he did actually have a really good Ana during Apex too. So this is a sight to see.
Seeing the Ana is exciting. And also, Jamerson, last point on the previous note, you're not going to buy me a Lambo. Volskaya will. But now we move in as Mayhem Academy begins their assault. And this is a little bit interesting where they are vulnerable to getting dove on pretty heavily with running the Ana, but the Legion aren't running something that is really divey here. You have Pankar and the Orisa, so they kind of get a pass for Hagopun to be on this Ana. They have more room to work with as they rotate around because the Legion, they're kind of anchored in place.
Yeah, I mean, this is a good read. It's a one-for-one exchange, but it's Paintbrush that goes down on Mayhem's side. So Pooks is able to bring Blase back into this while Mayhem don't have a mercy at all. So they have to sound the retreat, and they're slowly trying to work their way on out. But we do have a Fly just caught off in his own little island. It's Corey. The bullets find him.
Well, look, the reality is that you can res anything except a Mercy because Mercy is the one who does the resing. So that trade is something you take as a Legion all day and all night.
So that's a minute wasted by Mayhem Academy, and that's a valuable minute, especially here on point A, which generally teams, you know, don't really get gummed up on. But losing this minute can really force teams to play at a different tempo than they're used to. Apply has now swapped off onto the Genji as Corey. Oh, it's going to stop the push before it even starts. Never mind, Paintbrush erases that with the resurrection on the Shax.
I mean, he goes from one art tool to another, from a Paintbrush to an eraser, but his resurrection now on cooldown. Corey keeping a good view of the sights, almost takes out Hagopun, and it was a headshot, but wasn't charged up quite enough. You see the dive in from Milky Man, but he's focused right on down. The Storm Arrows and the Dragon making sure of that. Corey's brought back up, and the problem for Mayhem right now is that any picks they're getting aren't sticking because they're unable to deny the res, but
there we go.
Books is down. That's one that'll stick a little bit more heavily as Blase is on the side, laying in the arrows. And the Legion is still okay, and they're going to transcend and try and really dive back into this.
They try to pull the trigger, even though they didn't have the Winston there. I feel like it might have been too antsy coming up for Mayhem Academy to go for that dive. They got the kill onto the Mercy, and they're like, oh, let's go, let's go, let's go. But they could have waited a little bit longer.
They could have waited a bit longer, but the issue with them now is that because they didn't, they're down to their final minute 30. They don't have a whole lot for this next fight. And the problem is, you take a look at what the Legion has here. Yeah, they don't have Transcendence, but they're about to let Pooks ride high into the sky as Mayhem Academy is taking an awful long time even to begin this next push.
They haven't been able to get victim off this high ground, too. This is where Legion just held in the first point. Now the Dragon will be used, and they just stand in place.
Why?
As the Dragon consumes them, Apply tries to get a Dragon of his own. Now he's already at 84% towards his blade.
I'm thoroughly confused.
Yeah.
I mean, look, well-placed Dragon Strike, well done, Shax. But on the same note, Legion, have you considered moving out of the path of the Dragon in that situation? I guess the angle was that is that they weren't quite able to get away in time, but that still probably shouldn't happen in that moment. But now Mayhem Academy working with some momentum.
The momentum is going to ride off the back of Apply here, who does have that blade now after one more shuriken landing. Pooks, he'll have, of course, the Valkyrie, but what you really want is a Transcendence, which Rolf does not have. He used in the fight just before this last one. And so, there's an opportunity for Apply to get into the back line, but Blase has swapped off onto the Brigade.
Milkman has some Primal Rage, immediately stay alive. Apply under pressure, got healed up, but taken right down, stunned and eliminated. and Milky Man unable to make the distraction he was looking for. They were well prepared to deal with Apply. No slicing shenanigans going on this time, as the Legion just easily wash over Mayhem Academy and send them right on back to spawn. That shield broken on down.
Yeah, again, that was just a really smart heads-up play, a heads-up swap coming out from Legion. It was very similar to what Gods did on King's Row. Blase knows that the biggest threat on the opposite end is going to be the Dragon Blade for Apply, so he swaps over to Brigitte, who controls a Genji really well, especially if he's coming barreling at your team with the Dragon Blade. And so with that, Blase now will be able to swap off onto the Pharah here, because they notice there's no one to really deal with him on the Mayhem Academy side.
Also, speaking of swaps, I mean, you do have Corey that went to the Tracer, Widowmaker, a little bit harder to make work in this final point. Blase on the Pharah, and it's Apply trying to make the Junkrat work, where I actually respect it to a decent amount. The tire can be tricky towards the very end. You can get a pick off that can let you go a little bit further, and people do tend to clump up, but Blase is a real problem right now.
Yeah.
Landing way too much value, rocket after rocket. And look, I know Hagopun was able to take him out of the sky at one point in the past, but you can't really rely on the Zenyatta anti-air defense system.
It's just both support ultimates for Mayhem Academy's push here. That's not what you really want to commit into this, right? You want to have a DPS ultimate here, and they're just not able to hit anything at all because, well, one's in the sky, targets are darting around all across the point, and so Mayhem Academy, Apply, and Shaxx are not able to land anything. They're just getting passive ultimate charge at this point.
This is a really weird attack by Mayhem Academy where they're just hoping that something develops, but they're getting pummeled, just losing the poke war over and over again. I'm not quite sure if they expect a change right now, but they do have the Transcendence, so if they did get an early pickoff, they could use that. But instead, it's Shaxx who ends up falling. Sure, Corey might be down, but if you're Hagopun, do you really want to use a Transcendence in this fight? The answer to that's probably no. This will be telling us what Krems does. No, Krems just takes it. He says, I'm not going to ult. We're out of here. We're going to reset. But that entire fight was basically 3 fights in 1, and that's bad when it comes to time.
They needed a hard recall, reset call there on Mayhem Academy's side, because they used the Valkyrie at the beginning for, I'm not entirely too sure why. And take a look, Paintbrush is already at 70%, but during all that time, during the time it took Paintbrush to use his Valk and then build up another 70%, they got nothing off of it whatsoever. Now Apply's coming in with a tire.
And this is a little bit of an early tire for my taste. Maybe it works out, but they've already lost Milky, so now if he even gets anything, it doesn't matter. And it doesn't get anything in the very end. I think they needed to have more of a distraction to make that work as much as they wanted, but the Legion are still down a player. They're going to force out the Transcendence early on, but they're able to hold back a bit. Corey, though, can't dive in deep. The Winston is controlling a lot of space here, but speaking of Winston's controlling space, you have Panker on the other side. He was looking for the knockoff. Blase, the barrage from the other end. Not quite the ideal situation, but Milky Man down. If they can avoid the self-destruct, they can't avoid the self-destruct. They can't avoid it at all. 2 end up falling. Are they going to be able to hit the res? No. Corey defends it at the last moment, and that still might be enough for the Legion.
Yeah, I was surprised to actually see Blase sticking with that Pharah. It looked like earlier on he was signaling that he was going to go swap off because he saw that Shaxx had swap off onto the McCree himself. At the beginning of the fight, Shaxx took out Blase. Blase got res or brought back into, or came back into the fight, and then he played very cautiously afterwards. So now, because he sees the Cowboy on deck, he swaps over to the Ninja, bringing out the Genji instead.
Well, the Genji here is a little bit of a weird spot because he's very unlikely to get a blade in the final 25 seconds. A lot of Genji's power and picking him is kind of predicated on getting a Dragon Blade, but regardless, Blase going to swap to that here. Meanwhile, Shaxx trying to avoid the dive. McCree, one of the most diveable heroes in the game. Meanwhile, Rulf, they saw McCree, they decide to engage with a very heavy Transcend, and they immediately take down 2. Paintbrush can't erase that many mistakes as Corey goes wild in the back, and Panker says, oh, you're gonna do that? I'm just gonna push you off the edge. Let's go, let's tussle.
Yeah, and that's just the full strength of the complete dive composition coming out from the Legion there. Genji, Tracer, Winston, and D.Va. Even though the Genji doesn't have his blade, all you really need is that burst damage coming out. You get the Winston cleave, you got the boost, boosters coming out from the D.Va along with the dash from the Genji can absolutely melt health bars. And that's all they really needed. They needed to just sow confusion into the ranks of Mayhem Academy and then from there clean up.
Also, I mean, speaking of cleanup, you can't spell cleanup without Corey. You actually can, but that's besides the point. The main thing here for Corey is that he has been powering up over the course of the series where pretty rough go on Lijiang, much better a map ago on King's Row, even better here on Volskaya, particularly seeing his swap, seeing what he did in Widowmaker in the very beginning, seeing his flex over the Tracer and what he was able to do in the Mayhem Academy anytime they were at least a little bit out of position, it's been a much better go for Corey here. And the difference is very palatable in how the Legion are performing as a result.
Now, Legion, they want to take the lead in this series. It is all tied up 1-1. This is a 4-game set. That's kind of just how we've always worked. Very similar to OWL. So even if they do get this map, because take a look, Mayhem Academy, they had left themselves a huge win condition for Legion, right? All they have to do is take 33% on point B, and they walk away with the lead. So Mayhem Academy, they need to try and burn as much time here, or even get the hold if at all possible. They want to even tie this up.
And Mayhem Academy, I mean, I think they have shown that they are good enough to potentially do just that, but it is going to be a tough road because not only do they have to try to defend first, which is unlikely to get that full hold, but then they would have to super full hold second in a sense, where Legion didn't even give up a single tick. So getting what 1/3 is a lot easier, but it also changes how you have to defend to a less efficient way, which makes it even harder to defend 1/3, as paradoxical as that might sound.
Now, the Legion, they know that all they have to really do is turn the screws loose on to Mayhem Academy. They saw something they didn't like, and now it looks like they're going to go ahead and swap off Pinker going over to the Orisa there. They saw an Orisa on the opposite end. Maybe they want to play the Shield Wars, especially up against Apply, who does have that Widowmaker. And so they just don't want to afford him the opportunity to get some free shots off.
Oh, they're absolutely just going to go directly to the right, but I think Mayhem Academy, they're aware of this swap, and that's why you see them going a little bit more aggressive. One way of preventing the Shield v Shield battle is you be more aggressive. You don't let them easily get the Orisa over the other way. And, you know, Panker and back on the Winston ends up falling pretty quickly, team not with him. And Legion seem a little bit confused as to what they wanted to run here. And
yeah,
it's showing in this engage where it's all over the place.
They're continuing on in this push. It's very awkward. They're just giving over ultimate charge to Paintbrush now. He's sitting at 60% towards his Valkyrie there as he's able to heal up Milky Man. He's getting challenged now, so it looks like Corey is in the back line. He's almost got a pulse bomb, and so Mayhem Academy have to be careful, grouped up here.
Corey could blow this wide open. Pulse bomb out, does not connect. And in fact, the Legion are getting poked down on all sides. Academy, very healthy by comparison. Gods is going to get demacked, but Milky Man is down. That means that God's gone with the baby Diva Blaster towards the very end, but what does it matter? Paintbrush got the res. God's unable to punish that one. And Mayhem Academy, they're bending back, but they are not breaking. And Corey so far unable to get too much done into the back line, as Mayhem Academy has been pulling this deathball defense off rather effectively.
Yeah, both teams really struggling here on point A, on opposite sides of the point, too. It was Gladiators Legion who held on the high ground on the left side for their defense. Mayhem Academy holding down here, a bit more traditional, especially when you have like someone like an Orisa. They're trying to control that mega health pack. Ooh, Halt Hook almost caught out Gods there, but he had the Diva senses about him and kept himself alive.
Well, you take a look at Legion's next fight. Mayhem Academy needs to be careful to be nowhere near the ledge. Panker likes playing around deep, dark edges, especially if they send you into icy water. Panker's already pretty deep in. Uses Primal Rage early after getting focused. He's going to be looking for knockoffs and disruption. Now, note the Dragon got thrown in the middle of this, and Mayhem Academy's been able to do quite well with the Transcend, but Gods explodes on the other side. It's too much power being poured in from the Legion. Every ult was on deck. And Mayhem Academy unable to withstand the assault here. It's gonna be the Legion taking point A.
Just get all your ultimates, you throw all your ultimates in. It usually works out for you, and especially when they're playing so tight like that. You saw the Dragon being used, and the Dragon itself forces out the Transcendence. Now, because of the tank line of Mayhem Academy, they were running that Orisa along with the Winston. The Winston, of course, can use his Primal to keep himself alive. Orisa uses Fortify. She's not going to die, especially when you have the heal of the Transcendence, even if that Dragon is damage boosted. But that meant that once the Transcendence was gone, every other ultimate comes to bear onto Mayhem Academy.
Well, now take a look at Legion, right? Where they don't have a whole lot of ults to burn in here, but they would at least like to get the Valkyrie out. However, Blase, if he could just land that one magic arrow, almost gets a support in the back, which could have been good bait to get Paintbrush right after. Blase punishes Milky Man, who goes too deep. But with the aid of Valkyrie, it's just too much support coming out from Mayhem Academy. They're able to roll right on through, and the Legion must reset, but they did accomplish goal. Valkyrie's off the table.
Valkyrie is gone, and so Going to see some swap balls coming out from Legion here. It looks like they have got a game plan. Blase going over to the Brigitte as Corey goes over. Okay, never mind. That's what was confusing me. He's like, May? Why? But no, he's going back on.
Why not? Yeah, like when you're in a winter wonderland, sometimes you become winter itself.
More ice is what we need.
You know what? I can approve of that. Any Stark can approve of that, so long as they don't go to any weddings. The Legion, though, looking for their way in. A Valkyrie up in reserve. All they gotta do is avoid getting blown up. Meanwhile, look at this guy, Panker, where he's going to be looking to take the lead here in just a moment. Diving on in with the Primal Rage in reserve. And he plays right to the wire here, where he's going to take as much damage as possible. And no, actually, he's just going for the juggle. He wants to deal this end right here, right now. Gets rid of Hagapun immediately. Gets rid of one of the threats. Goes back in. Focusing supports, but he gets Hanzo into the corner. Dashes back in. And this is good high-level disruption from the tank line of the Legion.
And with no one on the points, Milky Man uses the Primal Rage, accidentally jumps off. He thought maybe his Diva was also there to contest. Unfortunately, the comm's just not that clear for Mayhem Academy, so they will give it up. And that's going to be, of course, Gladiators Legion taking the 2-1 now. Also,
I mean, that was good disruption, but they definitely could have stalled that out a lot longer. That was kind of like, oh, the game is over. It's like,
I mean, there were a lot. That was truly a zoning ultimate, though, coming out from Gods, because, well, all they had to do was take 1/3, right? So the self-destruct was in the proper position. Everyone jumps off the point. They try to get back on. It was just, I feel like they might have just been able to hold on a little bit longer, though.
Return argument, and yes, it was good help by Gods, is all someone had to do was accept their doom, pay attention to the fireworks show in celebration of 4th of July, eat the Diva self-destruct, and then play the game a little bit longer.
So do you think this game went as well as you thought it would? Did you think Panker really showed his all in this map?
I mean, I wouldn't say it was like one of the top 10 Panker performances I've seen, but this is what he does, right? He isolates people, takes them down on the side, and he's still a very, very good player, and that disruption is kind of what he does. I think it's a testament to him that you can have highlights like that and be like, nah, I've seen better.
Yeah, and that particular play, there's very little counterplay, because that's kind of where you do play as a Zenyatta, either on that left side or on the right-hand side, and either way, you're kind of boned. You're already stuck in the corner just because of how Volskaya works, right? And because the Mercy's out there, she wants to use her Valkyrie, she's not going to be pocketing the Zen, which allows Panker to be able to do this play. I mean, I'm sure he's done this play 1,000 times before. This was just, you know, his bread and butter.
But for Panker, it was Tuesday.
Yeah,
right,
exactly.
Right. Well, what will Mayhem have to do to try and counter Panker? So it's not just a Tuesday for him.
I mean, you focus Panker a lot, but the downside there is that you can put a lot of focus on the Panker, and then suddenly it's just like, wow, Corey's having a really, really good day. I wonder why. It's like, well, everyone's trying to kill this mad scientist on the other side. So, I mean, there's no easy answer given the support that Panker has.
That was the story of Season 1 for the Legion, where if enough pressure is alleviated off of Blase and Corey, because Panker's just always in the back line and is receiving the Zenyatta orbs from both sides, and of course 3 people shooting at him, that leaves Corey and Blase to do whatever they wanted, which is basically what happened here.
Right. So yes, obviously Legion did take this map, but you said their engages were a little bit messy. Maybe their communication wasn't as flawless. Do you think it's really individual talent that's carrying them through this game, or is it something else?
I mean, overall, their first push was very atypical for them. That's when we were referring to that. It was sort of, they were showing, okay, maybe we go Orisa, then maybe we don't. Then Panker uncharacteristically dives in with no one there. I'm not going to judge their overall coordination off of that. I think that was just like one of those weird things where they had this like lapse in judgment team-wide where it was like, wait, what are we doing? Why is Panker dead? I don't know what's going on. Where am I? Why am I in Arkansas?
But you do see like the roots of a lot of organization there. And of course, the communication coming out from the team, because of the swap-offs that we're seeing. Like, they're setting each other up for success, and that's, I would say, one of the hardest things to really build in a team. But when you see 2 separate players being able to go over to Brigitte to fill that singular role to just disrupt one person and do that, they're not doing that on the fly. There is communication going on, and so I feel like the foundation is there for this team to reach greatness.
All right, well, our next map is going to be Gibraltar. Do you think this is another map that we're just going to see Panker Tuesday it up, or maybe we might see Mayhem pull a win and go to map 5?
I think this map probably uniquely suits Legion in a lot of ways. A, it's an escort map, which the tank line of Legion has been very comfortable with historically. B, it's also a very good map for strong Widow play, which right now Corey has definitely been better than Apply from what we've seen here so far, especially from map 2 on. So this seems to be all in favor of Legion, but it is Mayhem who picked this map, so maybe they have something cool in store.
But ultimately, again, you're just playing right into the Legion's hands by going into Gibraltar, like you had mentioned. It's a very strong map for Winston. I mean, it's one of his home maps. He has 2 maps, by the way. Is that fair?
Well, that's unfair.
Okay, Winston doesn't consider the moon his home. He left there
true.
on a rocket ship. He actually hates Horizon Lunar Colony.
That is true. Well, let's take it off to Winston's home and see if maybe, possibly, Mayhem Academy can win themselves a map.
Gibraltar, map that's been with us since the very beginning, one of the very original Overwatch maps going back to the beginning of beta.
Yeah, it used to have 4 checkpoints. Remember that?
Used to have 5 divas.
Oh gosh, don't even remind me, please. Why would you do that to me?
Oh, I just undid years of therapy. Yeah. It's totally fine.
Oh my gosh. Especially when you got to like the end of it and then everyone was just diva and you just couldn't kill anything. It was
just like, why has the Korean army mobilized here in Gibraltar? It doesn't make any sense. But what does make sense is the defense we're seeing out here from the Legion, where we're going to be seeing Corey on the Widowmaker, Panker and Gods in the standard Winston Diva combo, a Mercy and Zen, and of course, Blase ratting it up on the Junkrat, where it can be very effective actually, especially in the underpass or the server room on the left.
This is a different offense, though, coming out from Mayhem Academy. They're going quad tank, which is a look you don't quite see often here on Gibraltar. But they do have both the mobility tanks in the Winston and Diva, and of course, the Orisa Hog, who are very mobile. But Shax has to instantly jump out, and Corey finishes him off as he was on the retreat.
Oh, Corey's not done yet. Picks up a second, making a third. Corey going ham in the beginning. Of course, set up by the tank line that just had no care of shields whatsoever. A well-executed counter dive coming in from the Legion.
Trying to understand what like the mindset for this composition is, because it is an unorthodox composition for Gibraltar offense. I would say a lot of people do really favor the dive here, but their quasi dive, it's really odd. It's really odd.
Well, we've seen teams for a long time favor the kind of counter dive. Struts' Milky Man had no support. Corey finishes off with the Discord orb marked down. Now he's going to get Winston in his face, but he's going to grapple shot up, gets another shot on the other side. He's building so much damage as is going on, getting his ult way far up, and Mayhem Academy is struggling to deal with this Widowmaker pressure right now.
Yeah, Hagopun tried to go on his own mission to try and deal with Corey, because someone needs to deal with him as he finds another shot onto Shax. And it's been primarily Corey on the kill feed for Gladiators Legion here. We'll see if any changes come out. I mean, the Orisa's not doing anything really much at all.
No. The Orisa is feeding the Legion plenty of ultimate charge. It's doing something. It's probably the Legion's most valuable player right now. You take that back.
Well, they don't feel that way anymore for Mayhem Academy, and so they're going to swap off as they're going for the dive, along with Shaq swapping over to the Widowmaker to try and counter the sniper. But you know, Widow is one of those streaky players, or one of those streaky heroes, right? If you feel on, you are going to be on fire, and Corey is definitely on fire.
I mean, he might be the sun right now. That's kind of how I'm seeing it, where he's gotten better map after map, and now he's just hit his final, like, Super Saiyan God form, Ultra Instinct, call it whatever you will. But he's over here to the left. He is giving a lot of due respect to this Winston changeup, though, as the Legion give up ground for free, deciding to hold down here at the back.
Now the dive comes on in, but Apply is there. Woohoo! Getting the dash, resets, picks up both supports, but Panker with his counter dive be able to answer back. That's a 1-kill exchange in favor of Gladiators Legion now, but somehow Corey falls to Shax's Venom Mine.
The mine just barely enough. You saw the protection coming out from Gods that almost kept him alive, but the bigger issue there is how the tanks and Blase were able to pull Legion back from the abyss. That should have been a one fight for the Academy.
I mean, things look great, right? Both the Zenyatta and then the Mercy go down in quick succession. And generally, you think with no sustain, a team loses a fight, especially in the man disadvantage. And now Shax has already built up 84% towards that Infrasight.
Well, Shax hears in the distance a faint fire in the hole. It's like, what could be fire? It's like, well, it's a tire, but the tire's down. Shax punctures it from afar. The problem is that while that was going on, Krem's a little bit too far deep, gets demech'd, and it's very difficult to be aggressive as an offense when your diva no longer has a war mech as Paintbrush takes one right to the dome.
Oh boy, and Mayhem Academy, they're starting to run out of steam now. There's 35 seconds left, and they just need to push it a few more meters to keep this map alive for themselves. But Gladiators Legion are staunch on making that not happen at all. Pankers just won't stop at all. Charges all the way over to their spawn with Primal Rage to take out Apply.
I don't know why you're angry, Panker. You're winning the game really heavily. You should be happy right now. However, let's be realistic about what is going on here. This is Mayhem's map choice, and they might have walked into a den of lions because the Legion are very easily holding on here. Corey chunking the Winston from afar. Shaq's already out of it. Milky Man, no prayer whatsoever. Oh, God, what a shot onto Apply. Dragon Blade no longer as Corey defends his turf, defends his perch, and the Legion just a kill or two away from getting what is an incredible hold here on Watchpoint Gibraltar. Time's over, it's done, and the Legion are well set up for an attack to win the series.
A lot of time was wasted by Mayhem Academy in their initial go there. They wasted 2 minutes essentially trying to go for that quad tank composition, which accomplished nothing except for standing in Corey's crosshairs for far too long. If they had another 2 minutes with that dive composition, they would have had possibly another opportunity with another Dragon Blade to try and finish this off. But now they got full held here, and Legion are on the cusp of taking this 3-1 victory.
Yeah, I'm just thinking back to the entire map selection process, and this is where Mayhem Academy should kind of look themselves in the mirror and be like, we made a terrible mistake. We wish that we did not do this. We did not properly evaluate the strengths of this Legion team because, look, I mean, we talked about a bit in the preamble where it's like, gee, what does well in Gibraltar? Winstons? Widowmakers? What does Legion have right now in the course of the series? Winstons? Widowmakers? Like, yeah. I don't know. It felt a little bit weird, and it had the results about as expected.
This was the worry that I had when, as soon as the screen popped up and we saw Gibraltar. And so now Mayhem Academy have really put themselves into a corner, the corner being right there, actually, where the payload will have to be stopped for them to try and send us to a map number 5. And now there's just no shenanigans. Mayhem Academy is not trying anything different at all. They're going to go for the dive themselves. A little bit of different look, though. Never mind, it's not a dive, really, because they do have Shax on the Brigitte. So they're going to try and put a stop, it looks like, to Panker shenanigans.
When in doubt, pull out a smaller female German Reinhardt that heals, I suppose. But, yeah, I don't know. It's not great. Also Swedish. God forbid I misquote Torbjorn and his legacy, where he actually has a very prominent quote about that. Regardless, the Legion heading here on the attack. We'll see if Mayhem's strategy bears any fruit. It's going to be a tough hold for sure.
Yeah, but they should be able to buy space for Apply, which is really what they need. But up against Corey right now, who's just on fire, really, with this Widowmaker, it's going to be difficult to try and put a stop to him. Apply. Not quite sure where he is. There we go. He is starting to fall back now as Corey feels a little bit more brazen. Goes to the skies, misses his shot on to Paintbrush. That would have been a great pickoff for the Legion.
Would have been territory that Paintbrush doesn't want to retread, as Corey's been going to that wheelhouse way too often for Paintbrush's liking. And Mayhem Academy giving a lot of respect to the Legion, but that means they only have a 1-fight margin, which means that one pickoff for Corey, and there it is! Gets Apply immediately. Here we go again. The Legion off an early pickoff, starting things off with a bang. They only need a little bit more to put this map in the series away.
They do punish Panker, though, but Corey is able to line up that shot onto Hageman, finds another headshot now. He's getting challenged by this Winston, but the rest of his team is there to peel for him, and now the Legion have their boots on the throats of Mayhem Academy and are about to end this series.
And it's Corey again. Corey gets 2 people right off the bat, gets the dream of Hagopune just being there with no one there whatsoever, gets to play a little bit of shooting here with Mercy, but the presence from the Legion, so overwhelming. We got an emergency Doomfist in the field, but he's gonna fall right away. Panker licking his chops in the payload, and that's gonna be it. The Legion take the series 3-1.
That was such a beautiful shot that started it all off, right? He goes for the grapple hook, and the apex of his jump brings him just barely above that Winston barrier to get that shot. It was just gorgeous.
Yeah, it was really the Winston Widow show, wasn't it? It was quite beautiful.
That's Gladiators.
We're
Legion at this point, yeah.
Mayhem's map choice.
Yeah. What was up with that? Like you said, that doesn't seem to make it. They seem to play into the strengths of their enemies.
Well, they absolutely did, but there is always that counter logic there, which is that they might feel that they are stronger on Gibraltar than they are on Route 66, which totally fine. On the same note, know thy enemy, and
specifically, no Corey.
yes, get well acquainted with Corey as he ruins your day in about 8 different ways.
Oh wow! Just look at that.
Yeah, this is the beginning of the end. And honestly, Mayhem Academy, though, we see a lot of teams, when they get full held here on Gibraltar, they don't play this passively. They allowed Gladiators Legion just to walk up the payload to right there with no contest whatsoever.
I mean, did they allow it, or was the invisible wall of Corey's pressure just so intimidating? They're just like, guys, we gotta get out of line of sight. We can't have this anymore. I mean,
I could feel your aura.
Yeah. No, there's like some anime level intimidation going on here. Like the ground was cracking around Corey as he was like walking on forward is what we were seeing.
Okay, we need to start a tally here at Contenders of anime references. I mean, I'm a huge anime fan myself, but you guys are just off the charts with nerd weeb references today. I love it.
It's usually not this bad in terms of that.
Well,
but
because AX is just right on the corner.
I think also having me here at the table just makes it super weeby.
I mean, I'm not going to name any names, but there was some in the back watching My Hero Academia. So it's like we go to eat and we just hear like Japanese screaming in the back. It kind of gets in the mood for some of these references.
But talking about anime auras, this has been a day of 3-to-1s. This has been a day of overtakes. So what do you think has played into that?
I mean, we've seen teams kind of get into their comfort zone, right? Where the teams that have won have been the more established teams. The teams that would be favorites to go ahead. The teams that have lost are the teams that have suffered more changes or have had more instability. It's not a surprise that Fusion wins 3-1. It's not a surprise that GGEA ends up winning 3-1 because Fusion and GGA were seen as number 1 and number 2 heading into Contender Season 1. And the Legion, their tank line is formidable. The only team that knocked them out from getting to the finals is the only other team with a very good tank line in GGEA, so none of this is a surprise, but we did see flashes of brilliance from every team that was beaten.
Yeah, these were the expected results, but the way we got there, not quite as expected. We did see lots of great play coming out from all of our teams, so I'm really excited for Group A here. As we move forward, the rest of the season should bear some amazing Overwatch as we move forward.
Out of all of these teams that played today in Group A, maybe out of the losing side, which underdog team do you think we should really keep our eye on moving forward that had the flash in the pan plays that really excited you, that really shocked you?
You know, I said at the beginning of the broadcast, I'll say it now, I think that LNL is very scary so long as Sugar Free is actually playing and in the roster. He's a dynamic player that at points bends the rules of the game where I take a look at a fight, I'm just like, yes, this team is going to lose, and then Sugar Free walks in and wins the fight, and I go, no, that's not supposed to happen. You're not supposed to be able to do these things. So he's an exciting player to watch, and I want to see more.
Yeah, definitely. But at the end of today, LNL did have a lot more flashes of brilliance. I was really curious as to how this new Mayhem Academy roster would work out, but it looks like they have a lot more things they need to actually address before they can really be in contention. But I feel like the raw talent is still there, but this is a completely different roster for them. So it's going to be a while before they get going.
All right, now that we've talked a little bit about Group A, let's talk about who we will be seeing in Group B coming up on Thursday. We will be seeing XL2 Academy going up against Energy Sports. We will be seeing Team Envy going up against Sky Foxes, and we will be seeing Toronto Esports going up against Bye-Week. Out of all of those, who are you most stoked to see?
I'm hitting my nostalgia bone. Envious is back in Overwatch, at least in name, and Tailspin is back in. And the funny thing is, they're playing up against a team called Sky Foxes, but Tailspin was the undisputed master of the air when he was an active player. His fire was second to none, so the Sky Foxes might end up getting grounded if they end up playing on maps that are advantageous to Tailspin's Pharah. I just want to see him play again, man.
How many times are you going to say Sky Fox is grounded? Seriously?
As much as we can. As much as we can, at every single opportunity in turn. I'm really looking forward to the NRG versus XL2 matchup, because XL2 have really beefed up their roster. They're basically almost all Korean now, by the way. But Tizzy Wuha coming in, and so a lot of OWL caliber players being brought onto Contenders, and then of course NRG also picking up Rascal there. So it's kind of going to be like a clash of titans. A lot of these Apex titans coming out. So that's going to be a great clash to see.
Also, I mean, let's not forget when you take a look at the NRG side, is that NRG, they were dark horses last season, right? Where they had a last season change, which was very beneficial in a sense, where you get a player signed to OWL, that's great, but they weren't able to really recover in time from Damon being lost. They were a team that could have done a lot more last season, and it was just unfortunate for the team itself from the prospect of getting deeper in the Contenders. So I'm curious to see an NRG redemption.
Awesome. Well, that is all we have for you today, but